There's nothing more motivational, more exciting than setting a goal, making a goal, identifying that high mountain that we're going to summit. We can't wait to go. And then next thing we know, we missed it. And that hurts. What happened in between? Let's talk about goals. We're going to talk about that next with Doug Whittington on Purpose Under Pressure. Welcome back. My name's Bryan, and this is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about developing sales and leadership success on purpose and under pressure. It's brought to you by the professional sales and leadership training team at Sandler by the Ruby Group. You'll find them in Akron and Columbus, Ohio. They're in Jacksonville, Florida. They're in Capital Region, New York. They can be where you are. They do their work all across this country, and they do their work on purpose. And I think that's really important because when you do things on purpose, you're doing things for a reason. You've identified the outcome. You know what you're going for, and you know how you want to get it. That's what Sandler by the Ruby Group really excels at. They're going to find out from you, what are you trying to do? What's the end result look like? How do you want it to happen? And we're going to help you get there. And I love that approach. You can connect with them online, and I think you should, at therubygroup.sandler.com. The Ruby Group, actionable strategies for today's toughest business challenges. So let's get cooking. I've talked a lot on this podcast about the fact that salespeople, and I was one for 36 years, we put pressure on ourselves, big time pressure, maybe more than most other professions, and our organizations that we work for have high expectations on us. And that's okay because we're driven people. I want that pressure. I want to carry that thing. But it always seems, folks, hear me, it always seems at the end of the day, we take this stuff home with us. We're falling short. Salespeople, I think, are never happy. We're just never satisfied. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about goals. My guest today is Doug Whittington. He's partner and trainer with Sandler by the Ruby Group. Doug, welcome to Purpose Under Pressure.
Thank you, Bryan. Thanks for the introduction, and certainly glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Doug, I talked about that. There's this feeling that salespeople are just never done. We're never satisfied. Do you see that in your work?
Yeah, it's probably not a bad thing, right? To have that drive, that motivation, continuing to want to improve. It's different when it becomes stress, right? And I'm stressed, and it becomes
that's right
destructive, right? And generally, what we find is salespeople, we like to set lofty goals. We are assigned sometimes lofty goals, and it becomes more about the behaviors that we do and the plans that we put in place to accomplish those goals that helps us deal with the pressure, and the execution of those behaviors helps us deal with the pressure that we're under versus focusing on the outcomes only.
Yeah, focusing on the outcomes only can cause a lot of pressure. And when you're doing the job right in the first place, setting those goals, though, is really key. And sometimes we set them too high. We can't reach them. Sometimes we set them too low. Is there a way to make it less of a wish list, maybe, and more of a realistic outcome?
Absolutely. And setting those goals, really, I mean, I don't want to sound too redundant, but it becomes a matter of really setting those behaviors, right? And we can have lofty goals. And we should have, they need to be realistic, but we should have lofty goals. But then the focus becomes, what do we do to achieve those goals? And what do we do consistently? There's too many times we overestimate what we can do in a short amount of time, but we underestimate what we can do consistently to really deliver results. And that's where the magic is, right? It's not that our goals are too high. Sometimes it's that, am I willing to do the things that I know I should do every day consistently to achieve those? So we think about, okay, I'm in sales. I want to double my sales results. Okay, does that mean I'm willing to do the prospecting that I need to do, make the cold calls that I need to make, set the meetings that I need to make, and have those conversations on a regular basis versus just focusing on the outcome. How many did I sell? How much revenue did I generate? Those outcomes become where the pressure is versus the daily activities that really help drive them.
Yeah, so setting the goal is easy. I can say I want to double my sales, and that sounds great, and I'll go to bed easy, and I'll wake up tomorrow morning, but I haven't changed.
Yeah.
So when you help a salesperson set goals, do you push back on the loftiness or the size of the goal, and or do you just say, okay, if that's what you want,
Mhm.
now let's talk about the real stuff? How do you tie the real work into the attainable goal? How do you make those
Yeah.
communicate and talk to
Well,
each other?
good. Again, very specifically, when we're setting goals, we want them to be, yeah, defined goals. I want to sell more is different than I want to sell 15% more, right? I want to define
Mm.
goal. I want to lose weight. I want to lose 10 pounds, right? Whatever those goals are, professional or personal, they need to be specific. And then we understand the why. Why do I want that goal? Why is that important? What happens if I don't achieve it? Right. And what makes
That
it
gets missed a
meaningful.
lot, doesn't it? Why do I want that specific goal? We miss that.
Yeah. The tough part is because now what is the daily behavior or the regular behavior plan that I'm going to put in place to accomplish that? And oftentimes that means I'm going to meet resistance. It's going to be hard. I got to get up in the morning. I got to get that routine. I got to make that one more call at the end of the day instead of just, going back to the office or whatever those things are that are redundant, sometimes uncomfortable. I've got to understand the why, because if I don't really understand the why and it's not important, then that motivation fades a bit, right? So that
Mhm.
becomes key to us, and it really becomes that routine, those behaviors that are going to drive that goal.
So defining that goal, let's talk a little bit about defining the goals, because sometimes we can't define our own goals. We might be able to have a little subgroup of things that I want to accomplish, but a lot of times the higher ups are cramming them down on us. Like, here's your number, here's your nut, cover this. And sometimes, Doug, if we do well as salespeople, what happens? They raise our goals.
Yeah.
or they challenge us with a different region that hasn't been developed, or it's almost like it can be a negative sometimes. So how do we set our own goals and understand the why, but how do we also get a why that matters when they're kind of forced on
Yeah, and
us?
that's the real world, Brian. That is the world that many of us live in. Here's your number. We love this exercise of bottom up. Let's everybody come up with their goals and we'll roll them up. And if it doesn't meet the big number, then okay, no, here's the top down, right? We
Yeah, that's right.
we live that, and sometimes we might look at those as they're unrealistic or they're not mine. And so there's a real need to own those goals and to see them as achievable and realistic. Um, but then even in those cases where those goals are given to us and they're lofty, if is being kind about it, right? Maybe they're not ours. It then becomes, okay, how do I break it down? How do I turn it into something boring almost? How do I turn it into the activity and the smaller bites that I can execute, that I can control, the things that I can do, that I can make happen, that I can be in charge of? Let me do those and do those consistently. Am I better off because I'm consistently performing? I'm doing the things that I know I should do, that drive the behaviors. Even if I fall short, I would say I'm not a failure. I didn't
Yeah.
fail.
And so you've given us permission to not base ourselves whether we hit the number, hit the nut, not take that home. Did we do the work? However, we're not going to let ourselves off the hook on that. So as we kind of wrap up, Doug, what's one thing I can do, or maybe what's a process I can do to identify those day-to-day, those activities that I can control? I know I can set my goals, and that's a different process,
Mhm.
but what's one way to begin putting myself on the path of daily structure so that I can hit, or at least come close to those
Yeah.
goals in the future?
One of the things that I would say, and 90% of the salespeople or people in general don't do it, is to write those goals down, put them on paper, and have those goals. Then the next thing that you do that probably 97% of people don't do is put a behavior plan in place. Okay, if I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, what do I need? I need to walk every day. I need to set aside 30 minutes of exercise each day. Or if I'm going to grow double my revenue as a salesperson, I need to prospect 1 hour every day. And I've got to put those plans into place, those controllable things that I can do. I've got to put those behavior plans in place. And one of the things that I have found personally to be a great accountability tool, if you will, in that process is write the goals down, put a behavior plan together, and then share it.
I was going to ask about that. Yep.
Share it with somebody that's involved in it. If I'm trying to improve a relationship with a family member, which means spending more time together, share. This is my goal, is for us to spend more time together. My wife and I are going to have date night every week. We have a date night. Or if I want to spend time with my kids, make it an actionable item that you put into place, and then share it with them. And then they also become your accountability partner along the way.
I love that. And it's hard, though, because we judge ourselves on whether we did it or not. Right. And so we don't want to share. Why? Because I might not do it. I might not get there. And that's a failure. Mm-hmm. And yet when we share it with someone that matters, and we say, look, I'm going to do my best to get there, and here's how I'm going to do it. Hold me accountable to those things.
Right. Yeah.
And tell me if I'm wrong here, Doug. Don't hold me accountable to whether I do it or not. Hold me accountable to whether I do the things that I need to get done to make it happen. That's tough, though, because if I'm telling my kids I'm going to spend more time with them and I don't end up spending more time with them, but that's going to hurt.
Yeah, well, it's going to hurt, but they're going to help you along the way. Whoever that is, that accountability partner is going to help you along the way. On the refrigerator at the house is a vision board, and it's got spend more time with my kids. I get to the end of the month, and my son says, "Hey, we hadn't gone out and play golf yet, or we haven't done something yet." So that accountability makes a big difference, and oftentimes we focus on our professional life. Those personal goals are extremely important too. That well-roundedness, that mindset of success and our identity, which is hard to separate from the roles that we play. Our identity as a person oftentimes comes through in our performance in our roles. How do we become successful in those? Do the things. Yeah. Do the things that we can control, that bring us the outcomes that we want. If we fall short, we've probably grown along the way. We've probably had more success than we give ourselves credit for. Where the pain happens is if I don't do those, and then I say, well, I'm a failure. I didn't succeed.
And there's nothing worse than taking that home, that feeling of, I fell short. I didn't make it. I'm not good enough. All these stories that we tell ourselves when we can actually control the things that we do. Folks, if any of this, and if you're a seller, all of this, or if you're a leader too, all of this is ringing true. But if any of this is ringing true, reach out to someone at Sandler by the Ruby Group, or someone, your wife, someone that can help you identify the things that you need to do to get better so that you can feel comfortable with the levels of success that you've reached. And if you want to reach out, I imagine, Doug, if someone wanted to reach out to you just to talk about any of this.
One of the things that I have found in this part of my career, nothing is more impactful than having that conversation with somebody, and maybe they've improved a relationship. They've seen more success in their work. They've seen improvement in their financial or physical health. That's what makes this job, what we do here at the Ruby Group, also much more meaningful.
Yeah. And that's what makes it fun being a seller too, just solving problems for people. And that's kind of a cool thing. Folks, I could talk about goals for the rest of my life and all day long. I just love this topic. It's so difficult, and yet it's so basic and elemental. If you get those pieces right, you can really have a really successful life helping a lot of people. Doug Whittington, thank you so much for being on our show and sharing this with us.
Bryan, thank you. Thanks for having us.
You got it, man. Always so happy to have the team from Sandler by the Ruby Group with us. That's Doug Whittington, partner and trainer with Sandler by the Ruby Group. I'm really glad he's part of this show. I'm really glad all of those folks are here. And folks, thank you too for being here. We do this every week. If you like the show, go ahead and subscribe. Sometimes we're doing 3 shows a week. You don't want to miss any. You got other things to do, so we'll send you a notification that the next show is available. Go ahead and do that for me. I'd appreciate it. And you'll find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at bryanmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. It's brought to you by the Ruby Group, actionable strategies for today's toughest business challenges. And until next time, no matter how high the pressure gets, and it will get high, don't take it home with you. Stay on purpose.